Support for this podcast comes from Arzell HVAC Zoning Technology. Arzell has been producing innovative zoning systems for over 35 years. We manufacture the highest quality HVAC zoning equipment from our factory in Cleveland, Ohio. Innovation, customer service, and outstanding products backed by a lifetime warranty are why so many contractors only use Arzell Zoning. We offer easy-to-install solutions, from a basic 2-zone system all the way up to custom zoning applications. For more information, go to arzellzoning.com or email us at marketing@arzellzoning.com.
Welcome to the Successful Contractor, powered by Success Group International, a show for residential contractors about residential contractors. We chronicle business journeys, share insights, and celebrate successes in this wonderful industry. I'm your host, Bob Houchin. Hello there, SGI family and other contractor friends across North America. I'm so thankful you're here. As a reminder, all episodes of the Successful Contractor Show are available on YouTube as well as your podcast player of choice. Today's show is a great discussion I had with SGI Coach, trainer, and learning facilitator, Estee Jaacovi. Estee's been in the home services industry, specifically HVAC, for more than 15 years. And as you will hear, before coming to SGI, she had several jobs throughout the industry. But where she truly shined was in sales. She's a 3-time crown champion, which means she's sold over $1.5 million in each of those 3 years. And selling's what we're going to talk about today. Namely, I'm going to ask Estee to walk us through, step by step, the sales process that helped her become a crown champion. It's the same sales process she teaches salespeople today, and it's helped tons and tons of people become crown champions as well. Estee shares all sorts of insights and tips that are definitely going to help those of you in the HVAC space, but I would argue any of you in home services, whether you're roofing, electrical, plumbing, you're going to take some nuggets away from this. So with that being said, here's my discussion with Estee Jaacovi on her step-by-step in-home sales process. I hope you enjoy it and take away a nugget or two. Estee, thank you so much for being on the show today. Great to see your smiling face. If you would, share with everyone your name and your role with SGI.
Sure, absolutely. I'm happy to be here. My name is Estee Jaacovi. Been with SGI for 3.5-ish years. Started off here, came in as a full-time training facilitator with the Learning Alliance. Have recently merged into the ops department. So I am now one of the airtime coaches and do part-time facilitating along with all of the other coaches. So we've kind of divvied up and everyone gets to have some fun with it now.
That's right. It's exciting. Yeah. So a little bit of a different role, a new challenge, but I'm sure it's nice to be able to talk to people a little bit more week to week, day to day, and see how they're doing.
Yeah, I love it. And a lot of times, I was with the frontline people doing sales and service training and some management, but not quite as much. And now I get to kind of come full circle and deal with managers and owners and get to hear struggles and celebrate victories. And it's fun. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, wonderful. Well, I'm super glad to have you on. I've wanted to have you on for a while. For those tuning in either through YouTube or our podcast, Estee, you share. You can toot your own horn. You were a superstar salesperson in your prior life. Share with everyone your background just a little bit.
So in my past life,
we're all so old, yeah.
I just hit the big 40 a couple days ago, so I feel it. My bones feel it. So I've been in the industry for about almost 15 years now. I started out at General Air Conditioning and Plumbing out in Palm Springs-ish, California. I have to say Palm Springs because no one knows Thousand Palms.
Well, right.
I went in there as a temp, worked my way through into sales lead coordinating, into sales management, and then became a comfort advisor. Went out my first year, did about 1.7 million, became a crown champion with SGI. Second year, did just shy of 2.5 million, became SGI's first female to crown champion over 2 million.
Yeah.
Third year, didn't quite finish, did another 1.7 before I left. Crown championed again, went to another plumbing and HVAC company, got to take over the HVAC division, raised the profitability close to 20%, and it looks so good they sold it.
Oh, is that right? I didn't realize that's what happened. That's funny.
Yeah, they ended up selling, and then I went to Goodman, Amana, Daikin as a territory sales manager before coming here.
There you go. Well, see, no good deed goes, what's the expression that goes
Unpunished?
Unpunished. I always forget. I always get halfway and go, I forget how to finish that.
Hey, it catapulted me to where I was supposed to
Yeah.
be, which was come back here. So
That's
full
great.
circle.
No, we're super glad to have you, and obviously you have tons of industry experience. But I do want to talk about your sales background, and especially just have you kind of walk through a sales appointment, if you would. I think it'd be good. It seems to be that's the content our members are enjoying, sharing with their teams, just kind of essentially in a way role play. I'm not going to be that official, but if it sounds good to you, let's just go ahead and dig in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. As you would head to your sales appointments, you're driving in your car. What kind of, how would you get your mind right? I know, doing in-home sales can be a difficult thing. And, maybe you didn't sell your first appointment of the day, right? And the customer was rude. So how do you not allow that to carry over? Is there anything you would do to get your mind right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that first call versus that second call versus that sometimes fourth
Yeah,
call of the day can be really different from each other. So,
sure.
for me, the first call is easy. I've had my coffee, I've gone to the office, we always did role play in the morning before we hit the road. So, we came in
Mm-hmm.
early just
Mm-hmm.
to feel confident before walking out. So, that first call, I felt fantastic. But if the first call didn't go exactly as I wanted it to go,
Sure.
uh, my go-to is always screaming loud music, like
Yeah.
not screaming type music, but
Hey, whatever works.
yeah, just really loud music. And I was probably the one screaming along to it. So it almost became like carpool karaoke for Estee. And I apologize to people that may have pulled up next to me with my window down, but sometimes you just need to get it out, you know?
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That makes sense. Also, as you're approaching that appointment, were you the type to try and do any kind of research on the home you're going to? I mean, are you talking to if it was a flip lead, I'm sure you're talking to tech.
Mhm.
If it's a marketed lead, can you do anything? Are you Facebook hopping on there or anything? I've heard all sorts of nutty things over the years.
Yeah, so, I'll start with like a tech flipped lead. I definitely was in contact with the technician before I headed out there. So
Sure.
I would give them a call and say, hey, kind of walk me through what your call looked like. And it's not just about what they did. Give me the temperament of the
Yeah.
customer, their
Oh, yeah.
disposition, what kind of rapport have you built with them? What kind of questions are they asking you? Have
Right.
they already asked for a ballpark? Because we definitely don't want a ballpark out there. But if
Right.
they're asking for me, that's a pretty good buying signal that they're looking at
Sure.
price already and they're really truly considering it.
Right.
So, then what kind of repairs were recommended?
Mm-hmm.
What was their reaction to the cost of repair?
Right.
Have they asked about financing? Just some generalized questions to figure out what's going on. I never want to assume walking into a call because we know
Right.
what that does. But for me, getting as much information as I possibly could before walking in there. And then I
Mhm.
let the technician know, hey, I'm going to have you regurgitate this to me in front of the customer as well. I want them
Oh,
to
okay.
see that I'm
Yeah.
asking you these questions.
Right.
Mrs. Jones, I see that you've got Tom out here. Tom, tell me a little bit about what's going on. And Mrs. Jones, please, if you have questions while we're
Mm-hmm.
going through this, please ask. Or if you need to add anything, I'd love to get as much information as possible.
Very good.
Yeah, and then they see it's thorough and we're making
Yeah.
sure we're leaving no stone unturned.
I like that.
With a marketed lead, oh, it's totally different.
Yeah.
First, I wanna know the source, where'd they find us?
Mm-hmm.
Next thing I do is I jump on Zillow,
Okay.
and I wanna look at the house, I wanna take a look at the perimeter of the outside of it, look at the neighborhood because I can kinda, like, scroll through the neighborhood and get
Sure.
it like, you put yourself in with Google Maps, you can get in the neighborhood and walk
Yeah.
around before you even get there if you want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for me, I'm looking at square footage,
Okay.
based on Zillow. I'm looking at last sold because if
Oh,
they're
okay.
brand new owners, I wanna know
Very
that as
good.
well, or
Sure.
if they've been there for 30 years, that's a good
Yeah.
thing to know as well. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff I would do.
That's great. That's fantastic. All right. So we pull up to the house, make sure you're not hanging in the home or in the car too long. You walk up, you knock on the door, do all that we teach. How do you what were some things you did to try and break the ice with customers? What was your process?
So I'm gonna I'm gonna say I have a little bit of an upper hand being a female,
Uh-huh.
is I was unexpected.
Oh,
So
sure.
a
Okay, yeah.
lot of times for me, the ice was broken already because they're just like, oh,
Right.
different. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey.
Yeah.
So that worked a lot for me. I'm just I'm just a happy person and I
Uh-huh.
smile a lot. And so when I smile at them, they automatically are smiling at me. It's
Mhm.
just kind of contagious. And for me, if I notice something great about the home, I'm really particular about like lawn care and my flowers, and I like my flower beds to look pretty. And if I see something I like, I will definitely talk about it.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
always, whenever I'm teaching about this, I stress, do not talk about something that you have absolutely zero interest in because it'll show on your face.
Yeah,
So
sure.
sincere compliments or just like, hey, how's it going? I love this neighborhood. How long have you lived here? Just
Right.
some rapport building questions that are not super generic,
Right.
like, how about that weather?
Yeah, try and keep open-ended, right, to get them to start talking.
Exactly.
For
Yeah.
sure, for sure. Do you try to, start diagnosing a person's personality kinda right away through body language and how and then if so, how does that kind of influence how you take the call the rest of the way?
I do. My background, what I studied in college was psychology.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I feel like it gave me an upper hand when going to the home. Body language for sure. If they're leaning in, if they're open to me, if they're not closed off, not arms crossed, then
Yeah.
I feel like okay, they're more receptive to conversation and building some rapport. If they're clipped, if they're, short, if they're arms crossed, like,
Mhm.
oh, this is the last thing I want to be doing. And a lot of times it is, of
Sure.
course, we're a grudge purchase. No one really truly expects to have to spend money on these kinds of things. But with those, I just work a little harder to bring down the anxiety in a
Mhm.
call.
Mhm.
So I start using softer language. I bring my tone of voice down a little bit.
Down. Mhm.
Yeah, just softer, slower, just so that
Mhm.
way they feel the anxiety kind of go away a little bit.
Okay. Now, do you just like to kind of stand there in the front of the house and start asking him questions, or do you prefer to try and sit down somewhere and kind of cover the comfort survey, or what did you prefer to do?
So most of the time they try to drag you directly to the area of concern.
Right.
So as soon as
Sure.
I show up, they're like, "Hey, great, let me take you outside and show you that condenser."
Yeah.
So for me, I would say, I definitely want to take a look at the condenser. In fact, I'm going to take a look at your whole system. We want to
Yeah.
make sure we do a full home analysis for you. But before I do that, I'd love to get to know you, get to know, what your family's needs might be.
Hmm.
So if I
Hmm.
could ask you just a few questions just to help me to better figure out what works best for you, so that way when we design this together, it all makes sense.
Sure.
Can we go sit down somewhere and just talk?
Yeah.
And 95% of the time people are really receptive to that. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense."
Sure. Sure. When you go through those questions with people, are there certain ones you really are honing in on to see what people say and how that will influence how the rest of the call goes?
Oh, yeah. So for me, the 12 benefits question. So that's
Mhm.
question 4 on our survey.
Mhm.
And it asks if you could pick 3 to 5 of the most important things for you in replacing your heating and air conditioning equipment, what would they be? And we give
Mhm.
them 12 different options.
Yeah.
Uh, and the best part about it is we also give comfort advisors or selling techs the benefits on a card. So it's in color, it's something you can hand to the customer, it's laminated,
Sure.
people are visual, right?
Yeah.
Because if I were to read you 12 things right now, you'd forget the first 3 by the
Yeah.
time I got to the last 3.
Yeah.
So by handing
100%.
them the card, I would say, I want you guys to pick the top 3 to 5, especially if you have 2 homeowners. Now don't cheat. I want answers from both of you. Do not collaborate on this.
Right.
And then when you get them back, what it tells you is what overt needs might be, some hidden needs
Right.
might be, things that are just important to people, and it gives you a platform to ask open-ended questions.
Mhm.
Like, if they pick something, say, like, "Comfort is important to me." I could
Mhm.
ask a question like, "Well, what does comfort feel like to you?"
Sure. Sure.
And get
That's
them
interesting.
talking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now is the thought just by them talking more about it, they just get more emotionally invested in it? Is that the whole goal, basically?
absolutely, because
Yeah.
when they feel like they've given me something to help them build their perfect system, it's hard to say no to something you said you wanted.
Right, right. And probably, I mean, I know there's good companies out there that do stuff like this, but by and large, the industry still, there's a lot of just bid droppers, and I think that probably goes a long way when you see
Yeah.
someone that's committed to finding out what you really want. So,
Yeah, it's not cookie cutter, but a
yeah,
lot of the times in our industry, it's one size fits all.
yeah,
And what we realize is even if my products don't change, the way that they will apply to my customers does change.
right.
And
That's
so
good
that's
enough.
what I need to talk to them about is how this will work for them.
Yep, that's great. How long would you take to sit with somebody? I mean, is there no time limit? I mean, there's got to be a point where you can tell it's dragging, right? So there's
Yeah.
got to be a sweet spot that you hit, right?
So sometimes it's, 60 to 90 minutes.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's 2 hours plus. So
Yeah.
if anyone's ever taken the DISC assessment, ooh, I'm a very high I, and us
Uh-huh.
I's, we like to talk. And then if
Sure.
you put another one with me, holy moly, there are times where I'm like, I've been here for an hour and we haven't even talked about anything air
Yeah,
conditioning related. So those are the
right.
3 hour plus
Yeah,
calls.
yeah.
So
Do those tend to close better, or is it not always that's the case?
not always that
Yeah,
case, but there are people that'll sing my praises even if they don't buy from
don't
me.
buy. Right, right,
So they'll
right.
still refer us.
That's true. That's true. That's interesting. All right. So after you go through that initial conversation, what's your next step? What do you like to do in the home?
Heat load calculation.
Okay.
So once I've gathered enough information from them, I've asked the right questions, I kind of start to explain, okay, so my next step here is to do a heat load calculation and then
Hmm.
really give them the reason why.
Hmm.
So I'm going to be doing this to make sure that your air conditioning is the perfect size. We don't want it too big and we don't want it too small. And then I give the reasons for that. And when they see that, oh, no one else did that.
Yeah.
No one else measured it. No one else told me it was the right size or the wrong size. And especially where I lived in the desert, people think, just give me the biggest one you got. Well,
Yeah.
that's not how that works.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't suck a bowling ball through a straw, right? So, you know, we want to make sure it's the right size for the home. So I explain that and then ask them to come with. Hey, do you want to help me out with this? Because I'd love to hear from you how everyone uses each room.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, so I've heard a lot of people that's a great opportunity to continue to develop that relationship. So I
Yeah.
mean, what is it? Just continue to ask open-ended questions. I mean, do you want to ask about things in rooms, or is that too personal, or you just kind of keep it high level?
I'm looking for certain types of things like,
Yeah,
hey, is it warmer in this room than
yeah,
others? I noticed that the sun's shining in here pretty brightly at this time of day. And I mean, I can't control the sun, but I sure can control ductwork with dampers and zoning and things like that. Or
sure.
I'm looking at the registers. Do they have them closed off? Are they filthy? Just things
Yeah.
like that that will catch my attention
Mhm.
to be able to provide upgrades to the customer that they may not even know are available to them.
Mhm. It's interesting you bring it up. It makes me think. Do you start talking about additional add-on products like air scrubbers? Do you kind of just mention that stuff's available and to
Yeah.
gauge any kind of interest, or do you save that? What's your thought on
Yeah, I'm
that?
not going into sales mode at this point yet, only
Hmm.
because I haven't gone through any options with them yet.
Right.
But if they say, "Oh, it's really dusty in here," or "It's really hot in here," I say, "Thanks for sharing that with me. Once we sit down together and go over everything, if I've got a product that can help alleviate that, is that something
Okay.
you would want me to include?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I've gotten permission to put it in my
Right.
options.
Support for this podcast comes from Pulse M. Pulse M is the #1 review generation platform built for home services. The majority of SGI members use Pulse M for Google reviews, customer communication through text messaging, and much more. For more information, please visit pulsem.me.
Welcome back to the show. I'm talking to SGI Coach, trainer, and learning facilitator, Estee Jaacovi. And Estee's walking us through step by step the sales process that helped her become a multi-time crown champion. In this second part of the conversation, we're going to talk about guarantees, how Estee presents options, how to talk financing, how to handle objections, and so very much more. Let's jump back into my conversation with Estee Jaacovi. So you do the calculations. What's the next step? What do you like to do at that point?
So once I've done the heat load calculation, now I know that we've got the right size equipment. It's time to sit down and really go through the guide itself. So the meat and potatoes is what I call it of the
Mhm.
education portion. And
Sure.
I don't like to say presentation because I mean, while yeah, you are presenting information, you're really educating
Yeah.
people. When people would ask me all the time, Esty, what was your style? Like, how did you do over 2 million in sales? I educate.
Yeah.
You know, people don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And if
Right.
I can share that information and if they feel like they have enough to make an informed decision today, that's the goal. Then I'm not coming back a second time or having to follow up. They feel like, all right, we're good.
hmm What part of that presentation do you feel like really draws people in? Is there anything that where you can start seeing lights come on, or what's your experience been with that?
Warranties and guarantees.
hmm
People need to know that they're protected. I mean, I would never go buy a car
hmm
and know that I had zero protection on
hmm
it, especially if it's a brand new car.
Right.
So for me, being able to decipher between a warranty and guarantee and showing them like I'm not just covering the equipment, I'm covering your experience. And
Right.
where else can you find someone that says, I'm going to make sure you're 100% satisfied and not just day one?
Right.
If you've got a 2-year 100% satisfaction guarantee, that's 2 years to figure out that you really love the equipment. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, are these guarantees typically the best in the industry, or is there many others that or compete with what we tell people to offer?
There are some others out there. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say that I didn't come across other guarantees, but a lot of times they weren't in writing. So
hmm
it's just kind of lip service, and they probably
Sure.
just caught on to what we were doing and like, I
Sure.
can do that too.
Right.
Yeah, well, we put it in writing and they sign off an initial stating that they understand what all of ours are and that they're getting that with no matter what they purchase. And it's not
Right.
just on the top of the line stuff. And I think a lot of people will do that for, you buy the Cadillac, you
hmm
get all the Cadillac guarantees with it. Like we're like, you want to buy the Corolla, you get the guarantees with that too. It doesn't matter
Right.
what you buy. It's
Right.
we just know we're gonna do it right.
Sure. Sure. All right. Once the presentation's through and we get to the options, how many options would you present? Do you tell people to present?
So 3 to 4 is the sweet spot. I did
hmm
4, and I can tell you when you go top down when presenting options, about 50 to 60% of the time, I didn't even get to that bottom one.
Interesting.
People were just like, no, I think I'm good with those 3. I don't need
Yeah.
to hear the low one." People don't
Yeah.
wanna be that person that buys the lowest of the low, even though
Right.
it's there because it's still a good product and it still will work for people and it's a
Sure.
better price point, but most people are value driven
hmm
and they
hmm
understand the bang for your buck, right?
Talk about the reason to go top down versus bottom up.
So if I'm going bottom up, and let's say my bottom level package is $5,000, just
hmm
throw a number out there.
Yeah.
You've now heard $5,000, and
hmm
$5,000 might be scary to you.
Yeah.
But what if my next one up is $7,000? That's even scarier. And now
Right.
$9,000 and you're shaking in your boots. And by the time I get to $14,000 for my top package, you're like, oh,
Right.
I don't even want to deal with that top one.
Right.
Whereas if I start with 14 and that, I mean, it's a little shock and awe,
Yeah.
but for some people, money is not their trigger. It's comfort, safety, peace of mind.
Right.
But going down now, 9,000 doesn't sound so bad.
Right. Right.
7,000 sounds even better.
Yeah.
And I don't even need to hear the 5,000. I'll end up in that 7 to 9 sweet spot somewhere.
Sure. What were the biggest differences in the options typically? Is it the IAQ add-ons? What were the big differentiators? Just the
Um,
types of equipment?
it kind of depends on where you live. Like for me,
Oh
air
yeah, yeah.
conditioning was huge. Like
Sure.
our heating season consisted of, a month of weather under 60 degrees.
Right.
So I can't really complain. We had a whole
Right.
lot of cooling season, but
Yeah.
for us, it was high efficiency air conditioning. We had variable speed indoor, variable speed outdoor on our top of the line. And then we went down to 2-stage and variable speed. And then we went down to single stage and multi speed. And then it was just all standard on our bottom level.
Yeah.
But yeah, the IAQ on the top package, that is like anything you can ever dream of and want to make sure that your home is clean and that your equipment and your investment is protected. It was on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we start slowly taking things away.
Way. Right. Yeah.
And that's the goal of going top down
Yeah.
is get them emotionally invested in the products that you're offering because they would work for them and
Sure.
explain to them why and how and the benefits. And
Yeah.
then as you say, well, now this one won't have that UV light that I know was really important to you because we want to make sure that we're safe during times like COVID or flu season. this package doesn't have that one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now it's like, well, wait a minute. I wanted that.
Yeah.
Let's go back up to that package. What's the
Right.
price difference there? And that's when you go, okay, they are invested in what we're offering.
That's great. And that leads right in beautifully into the financing question. So I guess all you teach always present finance price first.
Even if they tell you in the beginning they don't want
Paying cash.
financing,
Yeah.
guess what? They probably have $5,000.
Yeah.
And they realize later when you start at 14, 18, 20 for your top of the line
Plus, yeah.
package, 5,000 ain't gonna cut it,
Right.
And we don't ever want someone to feel anxiety saying, how in the heck am I gonna do this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We can make it work for everybody because
Yeah.
$5,000 becomes a fantastic down payment, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Oh, sure. Are
Yeah.
there ever too many financing options? Like how many when you're coaching with people, like with just two, you start with the one, right? And if they start pushing back, you have the
Yeah.
second one, or if they can't get
So
approved, what do you recommend?
I like to lead with my longest term
Mm-hmm.
financing to get the lowest
Lowest
monthly
number.
payment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sure.
there's ones out there that it can go 10 to 12 years, right?
Yeah.
So if I take something just off the top of my head, like a 1.25% payment factor on a $10,000 job, I'm looking at $125 a month.
Yeah.
Am I going to pay that off in the next 2 years? No, and not unless
Yeah.
I send extra money, but there's no prepayment penalty. And I tell people that, listen,
Yeah.
this is to protect you. So that way there might be months where you can only send the 125 and that's perfectly okay. There could be
Yeah.
months like maybe you get a stimulus check or maybe you get your tax return and you can spend more money and send it towards that principal. Do it
Right.
because
Right.
you can.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I like that little coaching bit that in talking to people about the financing. That's good. That's very good. So what at that point you show them the prices and you be quiet and you're quiet, right? So, um, what what are the typical? I guess price is probably objection number one that you would get. So what when someone brings that up, like boy, those are just four big numbers.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
So if it's something like, man, I really wasn't expecting it to be that much, I would
Yeah.
say, hey, I totally understand you wanting to make sure you're getting the very best value.
Hmm.
What exactly did you have in mind? What
Hmm.
what number were you hoping to be around today? And once they
Right.
give you a number, figure out where the number came from.
Right.
Is it because they had another bid? Is it because they talked to a neighbor who 4 years ago replaced their air conditioner and they're the expert that they're dealing with?
Sure.
Where'd the number come from? And
Right.
once
Right.
I
Right.
figure out where the number came from, it's easier to handle because
Hmm.
it's different situations.
Yeah, yeah. Um, how about let's chase that a little bit. When you do get the other bids, you
Mhm.
know, and especially those that are on a napkin and they're way lower.
Yeah.
How do you handle those situations? Or someone that pulls out three bids, right? They're the bid collector. What do you do in those circumstances?
First, I tell them, hey, if this was me, I'd be doing the same exact thing because
Yeah,
guess what? As Americans, it's ingrained in our culture to get three bids.
yeah,
I mean, it's even on sites like the Contractor State License Board tells people get three bids. So
yeah.
it's natural for people to do that.
Sure.
So I say, hey, you know what? That's smart. I'm glad you're being smart about this. Now tell me, what about those other three bids that you received was left out to make you say, I need to get another one?
Right, right.
What exactly were you looking for that you didn't get from the
Hmm.
first few?
Hmm.
Because I want to be that person that gives it to them.
Yeah,
What didn't they like? Was it the price? Was it the product? Was the person?
yeah. That's interesting. And you always get a response? I mean, or was it just people like, "Oh, I just was told to get 3 bids." I mean,
And
how
with
do you
that
handle
one, I'm
that?
like,
Yeah.
hey, totally with you there. Let's
Right.
make sure we're getting you the best value. I avoid the word price at all costs. I
Uh-huh.
use the word value. Let's make sure we're getting you the best value.
Right, right. How about the individual, it's like, "I just wanna think about it," or, "I don't wanna pray on it," or, there's that it's the same excuse.
I've
So,
prayed with people before. So,
yeah.
hey, give me your hand. I mean,
Yeah.
not during COVID times, but
Own
give
it,
me your
right,
hand and let's do this.
right, right.
No, sometimes when they want to think about it, especially if you have both homeowners there, guess what they want to do? They want to talk about it without you sitting right there.
That's a good point. That's a good
So
point.
get up and leave the room, go out to your truck, tell them you need to call the office and make sure that, you got your next call lined up or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it may be. Give
yeah,
5 minutes to chat because sometimes it's just, can we afford this? Which one
yeah,
do we want? And they don't want to talk about it in front of you. So
yeah,
that
yeah,
sometimes is an easy one. But if you get, I need to think about it,
yeah.
it's a mask. It's not the real objection. So you got to dig a little deeper to figure out what it is that they need to think about. So I would ask questions like, hey, I'm totally appreciative of the fact that you want to make a good decision for you and your family and your budget. I just want to make sure that I didn't leave anything out here to where you couldn't have everything in front of you to think about tonight.
That's
Were
good.
you happy with the packages I put together for you? Were you,
Okay.
are you happy with the kind of warranties and guarantees? Are we the kind of company you would want to do business with?
Hmm.
Was it me?
Yeah.
Is there anything that I did where maybe I shouldn't have, or are we good? And just making sure it's not me, being
Yeah.
humble.
Yeah.
And then was it the price? Were you not quite ready for this to be in your budget? Did I not fit your budget?
Yeah.
Just narrowing it down to figure out. And most of the time, you know what it goes back to? It's price.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Those are very closed, very direct questions. Is that pretty much it then? And once they say they've gone through that, I mean, do you just not push anymore? When is enough? Or is it okay to get tossed out every once in a while?
Every once in a while you're gonna get tossed out. But for
Yeah.
me, if they say, really, we just really want to think about it, great. And I want to make sure that you make a good decision for you. So
Mhm.
is it okay? I'm going to call you tomorrow between 3 and 4. That
Okay.
way you
Good.
have time to think about these questions and write them down, and we can go through them together. So I'm going to go ahead and block out my schedule, and I'll call you
Mhm.
between 3 and 4 tomorrow. How does that sound?
That's great. So you like the next day? Because I've heard a lot that people go, "Oh, I'll call you in a week," and I just not, when you think about that long ago, a lot can be forgotten in that time. I feel
They
like.
could have a new system installed in a week by somebody else.
Yeah. Right.
No,
Right.
I wanna get to them tomorrow. I mean,
Right.
because what I don't want them to do is to have an opportunity to start calling those 3 or 4 other
For sure.
companies, especially if it's a flipped lead from a technician. Number 1, those should be like 80% close
Yeah.
rate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're gonna have a few that were like, "Whoa, we weren't even planning on this. This is overwhelming,
Sure.
we just need to think about this." The last thing I want is for them to call another company.
Right. Right.
I want them to be our customer still. We need to retain the customer. So if that means getting the technician back involved in the call, great. I just
Yeah.
don't want to lose the customer.
Right. Right. Okay. So no more negativity. So someone happily gets involved with us
Yay.
today. How do we keep them from canceling, from those second thoughts, regrets, or whatever? So any kind of post close recommendations that you share with people?
I let them know they've made a wonderful decision. Whatever decision they made is a good decision because it's with us. So
Yeah.
whatever package they chose, that's the perfect package for
Yeah.
them.
Very
So
good.
making them feel really good about that decision, making sure that they have every piece of information that they could ever want or need, so they're not feeling like they need to go to the internet to find things, because
Right.
that's a scary place to send your customer. Like,
Sure.
they
Yeah.
will end up down a rabbit hole
Oh God. Yeah.
that leads to disaster. So
Yeah.
giving them everything that they need and scheduling as soon as I possibly can. And I
And
know right now it's tough. I
yeah.
know there's shortages on equipment. I know it's busy season.
Right.
So if anything, get some skin in the game.
Mhm.
I'm collecting a deposit. I'm making
Right.
sure I've secured that financing. I'm doing anything I can to make sure that they're comfortable
Mhm.
before we can get to them.
How do you manage those expectations? Like, hey, I mean, you know, inflation's everywhere, there's shortages everywhere. How would you recommend salespeople, educating people about how that's going to affect them?
Yeah. So I know a lot of times people say, I think I might just wait on this and hopefully
Yeah.
things will cool down in the economy or whatever it may be. And I tell people, think about it. When was the last time that pricing on vehicles ever really went down? I
Right.
mean, there's specials, but they move the price up to be able to bring the price back down again.
Yeah.
Today is the least you're ever going to pay for a new system.
Yeah.
Only
Yeah.
because with the cost of goods, the tariffs on things like metal,
Yeah.
importing, manufacturing being down because they don't have enough staffing right now. It's
Hmm.
so difficult to get hands on what we need
Yeah.
that now is the time to take advantage of it while we can, because as things get tighter or just as things with natural inflation happen, the price will move up. So
Yeah.
I'd rather them be less frustrated, be more comfortable, be under warranty,
Yeah.
have guarantees, and pay less today. So to
Sure.
me, that just makes sense. If you can explain that to them, I think they get it.
Yeah. How would you guys manage, so you're booked out a week or whatever,
Mhm.
and it's 99 degrees in the desert and their system shot is done. What would you guys do to try it? Would you Band-Aid it or what? I mean, I guess you don't want you want them safe. So what do you are
Yeah.
they just kind of stuck or what are some things you guys would do?
It depends on what the repair was to get them up and running. If it's a down compressor, I'm not putting in a new
New
compressor to get them
compressor.
up and running, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I carried a portable in my truck, so I had a
Okay.
portable AC unit I would set up in one room of the home for them, and that way they
That's
had
good.
one room to escape to. So was there still some discomfort?
Oh,
Sure,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But I've done what I can to keep them comfortable while they wait. Now,
Yeah.
if it's something where it's like they've decided, even after it's just a capacitor, but this is the seventh repair this year.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get them up and running. They're gonna pay for the capacitor, then I'll take it off the cost of the install. Some
Yeah.
companies will give you up to a certain amount for up to a certain amount of time that can be credited towards the replacement because
Mhm.
basically what they've given you is a deposit.
Yeah.
No one else is gonna give you that money back.
Right. Right. Very good. Very good. There's lots of great stuff here, Esty. Really appreciate all your insight. Just kind of in wrapping up, any just kind of final advice you would give to salespeople out there, especially new ones that are in our industry and just kind of learning the process.
Yeah, the best thing I ever heard when I first started was too techie, no checky. Don't go over their heads. I fell into that trap in the beginning because as
Really?
a
Okay.
female, I thought I better
Oh,
prove my worth, right? That I
yeah.
know what I'm talking about. And people just looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I realized, oh, I'm not connecting because I've gone too technical. So
Yeah.
KISS, right? Keep it super simple.
Oh, that's a nice way to put it. There you
I
go.
know
I like
Julie
that.
taught that one to me.
Of
So
course.
keep it super simple and to make sure that when you are talking to them that you explain it to them in ways that they care about. They don't care about variable speed this and what
No.
type of electricity it runs on. What they care about is how much money they're going to save.
Yeah.
Is it going to be quiet? Am
Right.
I going to be comfortable? What's it going to cost me?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, good stuff. Awesome. All right, Esty, thank you for being on the show again. For those who are tuning in, there's a podcast version where Esty walked us through a service call and did another marvelous job. So always glad to have you on. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
See you, Esty. Have a great rest of your day. That's SGI Coach, trainer, and learning facilitator, Estee Jaacovi, walking us through step by step the sales process that helped her become a Crown Champion and train many more Crown Champions. Thanks for joining us. If you feel like you have a great story worth sharing that would also help other contractors, email me at bhouchin@yoursgi.com. Also, if you enjoyed today's show, if you're on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. If you're on your favorite podcast player, leave us a 5-star review. And please join us for future episodes. It's my promise to you that we will continue to interview successful contractors and other influential individuals in the residential contracting space. This is the Successful Contractor, powered by Success Group International.
Support for this podcast comes from NAVAC. NAVAC is a global manufacturer and has dedicated over 25 years to the production of vacuum pumps, recovery solutions, and HVAC tools. NAVAC draws upon its commitment to technical innovation, customer service, and R&D investment to develop tools that deliver efficiency, accuracy, and ease of use in the real world. Visit www.navacglobal.com for more information. The Successful Contractor Podcast is part of the Success Group International family. SGI is the largest member-owned best practices organization for independent residential services contractors. SGI provides its members a competitive edge through proven proprietary management tools and expertise, marketing programs, training, and group buying power, along with a highly active and eager to help membership. For more information about Success Group International, visit www.yoursgi.com.